We believe that Eastern or Western exclusively do not have the answers. And the combination of both is very powerful. And we like to think we're leading that conversation and do a very good job of dancing very delicately around the nuance in the conversation.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today I'm joined by Mindbodygreen co-founders Jason and Colleen Wachob. In this episode, we discuss the couple's experience building a wellness-focused media platform, how the company has expanded beyond advertising revenue to include supplements, health coaching, and virtual classes, and we explore emerging health trends from wearables to mental wellness and longevity. Let's get into it. Colleen, Jason, welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
So great to be with you. We're huge fans. It's such an honor to be able to chat with you.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. I have kind of followed Mindbodygreen for a number of years. And at this point, you've been around like over a decade, I think. So it's been quite a while. And I want to definitely talk about the evolution of the business and so many things that I think are pretty exciting from your end. But maybe for folks who aren't familiar, or maybe as a refresher, can you just introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what you're working on?
So we are Jason and Colleen Wachob. We are husband and wife, co-founders and co-CEOs of Mindbodygreen. And yes, you are correct. We've been around for more than a decade. Mindbodygreen was founded in 2009. It started from a personal health journey. My background, I played basketball at Columbia. I got to do the math in my head, date myself. I graduated in 1998, so I'm old, 47. After basketball, I was an equities trader, was around for 9/11, like a lot of New Yorkers. That event affected me and wanted to focus on other things, and became an entrepreneur. Fast forward to 2009, I was part of another startup, 2008, 2009, wasn't doing well. Found myself living on an airplane. I flew over 100,000 miles domestic in a year. I am 6'7". Me in a coach seat is not good for anybody, especially my lower back or the people in front of me or in back of me. And so the combination of stress from that company not doing well, the flying, not really taking care of myself. My idea of nutrition back then was steak and martinis at the Palm Steakhouse. I consumed so much red meat and so much vodka. I earned my caricature on the wall of the Palm in Midtown Manhattan next to Adam Sandler and Joe Namath. That is insane. I'm on the wall. My idea of nutrition had evolved. I still eat meat, but not as much. Make sure it's grass fed and so forth. But embrace the plant based diet. So I'm having all these things going on. My lower back is killing me. I have 2 extruded discs, L4, L5, S1. Combination of the stress, the flying, nutrition, not taking care of myself. I have excruciating sciatica in my right leg. I cannot walk. And so I go to a doctor, says, you need surgery. I have nothing against back surgery, but see it as a last resort. And the success rates are not good. Anyone who follows basketball, just ask Steve Kerr. He still regrets having that surgery. So I sought a second opinion. That doctor said the same thing. He said, you need back surgery. But it was almost like an afterthought. He said, you know what? Maybe some yoga or therapy could help. Colleen and I were dating at the time. Colleen had a yoga practice. I said, all right, let's try a little yoga. So started with 5 to 10 minutes, really light yoga in the morning and evening. Started to feel better. Started to make a lot of changes in my life. Started to look at stress, sleep, nutrition. Over the course of 6 months, I went from couldn't walk to completely healed. To this day, I've never had back surgery. And we've had a couple aha moments in the course of Mindbodygreen, but that was the first one where, I said, everyone's got health and wellness wrong. You got to go back to 2009. The word wellness was equated with the spa. Anything holistic was new age, crazy, preach to the choir of people who lived in the west side of LA, Abbot Kinney. We all know what that looks like. And nothing was really inclusive. And also, you had traditional, health and fitness, which was very 5-minute abs, vanity, print magazines. And to me, it was clear that there was a huge opportunity and that no one was doing it in the right way, the point of view, which I thought was so clear, that true well-being, was a blend of mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and environmental well-being. And they were all connected. Mindbodygreen, one word, not three. And that was the inspiration for launching the company and starting with content. Content is power. Content is education, and saw the opportunity that there was something much bigger for us. So that's sort of like how it all started. So if you go to Mindbodygreen, we just walked you through those pillars. We are a content first, I would say, branded platform. And that's how we've evolved. And it's been a fun evolution over the course of the last coming up on 13 years.
Yeah, it's certainly the journey of discovering that for yourself and then figuring out, hey, how do I get this out there into the world in a meaningful way? And I'm sure over the years has kind of evolved. At this point, can you just talk about, give us a sense, whatever kind of metrics you would point to, whether it's headcount or viewership, how big is the company and platform, and kind of how has it taken that form?
Sure. So a lot of things to touch on here. So in terms of viewership, in terms of content, we reach 16 million unique visitors globally on a monthly basis. We reach 10 million unique visitors monthly in the United States. We're approaching about 60 employees here. In terms of revenue, we have multiple business lines. Our advertising business is an 8-figure business. We have a CPG business, which consists of supplements and personal care products that we sell pretty much exclusively through mindbodygreen.com. That's approaching an 8-figure business at a run rate, like right now, on a run rate basis. And then we have an online education business, which is a 7-figure business. And we recently launched a health coaching product, like just now, which we're so excited about. And we're excited to see what the true potential. We have very high hopes for that business and the ability to scale. And so those are sort of our business lines and metrics that we pay attention to. Did I miss anything?
No, got it covered.
Yeah, I think starting with, as you put it, the content as being like the fuel, and we think of it very much, even at Fitt Insider, right? It drives the flywheel that enables us to do a number of other things. In your case, this starting around the wellness and the various aspects as you described them, how do you think about what qualifies, like what goes onto the site from a publisher's perspective? Oftentimes, health and wellness can be very kind of like woo-woo and over the top. And certainly there's no shortage of like different personalities, this guru aspect of it. So how do you navigate that landscape and make sure that it is something that instills trust and confidence in the audience?
So I'll start and I'll let Colleen finish with this one. And so when Mindbodygreen started, I would say we were very curious and we were smart enough to know we didn't know everything. And so even though some of the content originated with Colleen and I writing it, in the process, we wanted to reach out to the best experts we could find: functional medicine doctors, fitness professionals, holistic practitioners, licensed acupuncturists, and so on. And so we got to go rewind. We're in 2009, 10, 11, 12, like Instagram wasn't even a thing. And so if you talk to people, other entrepreneurs in our world, a lot of them know us for our community of contributors, having diverse, multiple points of view with an emphasis on practitioners with letters after their name, where it's PhD, LAC, MD, ND, lots of different types of letters. And so that's always been very important to us. I think if we zoom out to the state of the world right now, we believe in nuance. We believe in multiple points of view. We believe in being a safe place where you can share a point of view. But if you're going to have a point of view, it's got to have science behind it. There need to be guardrails. And so we take a lot of pride in that. Some members of our community, and our community is vast in terms of contributors. A couple of people have called us the United Nations of Wellness. We think that's a good thing. We believe in the nuance. We believe that Eastern or Western exclusively do not have the answers. And the combination of both is very powerful. And we like to think we're leading that conversation and do a very good job of dancing very delicately around the nuance in the conversation.
Yeah, and what that means on a practical level from a rigor standpoint is we have hundreds of expert reviewers who are overlooking every piece of content. We have in-house PhDs who are looking over the science and expert reviewing content. And when we think about a topic area that we want to touch on, we want to ensure that the Mindbodygreen POV is going to be different than anything that you find from a conventional source like a WebMD. And what that means is the types of experts we draw upon will likely have a more functional or integrated POV when it comes to the types of advice that they're offering. And the content that you're going to find on these search results is just fundamentally different than what I would consider the mainstream health media.
I think, and you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe steer the narrative maybe in a different direction. But from the outside, right, when you think about maybe comparable sites or strategies, a few come to mind that are doing this in the wellness industry. So like a Well and Good or a Goop, right, where you're taking these different aspects and you have different types of contributors or personalities, and then you're creating different business lines around that. I definitely want to get to the different business lines aspect of it because I think it's super interesting. Do you think of yourselves similar, different, or how would you differentiate from those comparisons?
When I think of the content to commerce space, I'm really more inspired by people who are outside of well-being. I'm thinking about people like Food 52. I'm thinking about people like Hodinkee. And the common thread in kind of all of these platforms has been, we've all been at it for a decade or so. And why that is because, as you know, and anyone who spends a lot of time in the content space, it takes years to build the engine and millions of dollars. It's not something that in a post-meta world, you can just say, oh, I'm going to invest more in content. And that ROI happens so far down the line that it really has to be a thoughtful and diligent investment. And you mentioned Goop. I really think of them more as a luxury brand and not really people who are focused within well-being. And what we offer within Mindbodygreen from a well-being standpoint is we are reaching wellness newbies, and then we are reaching people like us who are the wellness committed, who are practitioners, who are drinking the metaphorical kombucha and want to go really deep. And I don't know of any other branded platform media site who's able to service both of those groups. People do a good job with one or the other, but can't speak to the whole broad spectrum.
And I always like to come back to the pillars here: mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, environmental. And to me, that is the point of view. As we talk about the health and well-being conversation, that is it. Because you could be exercising and meditating and doing and wearing all the wearables and you got all the gadgets, but like you're putting toxins into your home, like it's going to negate all that good stuff. And I remember early on when we launched, I got a lot of, why the green? I don't get it. Now everyone understands that conversation. I think we've been leading the conversation on the environmental side. I think about the mental, emotional, spiritual part of the equation. I remember with Colleen, she knows where I'm going to go. 5 years ago, we were sitting in the office of a very large Fortune 500 advertiser. And they believed we had too much content around mental health on the site. I think you're smiling. That's almost a laughable conversation right now. And so in so many ways, I think we're the only player that has that point of view that touches all pillars of health and wellness. And I think that's important.
And we tend to talk about these topics before they enter the zeitgeist.
I think that, the mental health piece, the spirituality, the even some of the quote unquote green aspects, all those things as driven home by COVID and the pandemic, like what we're not only how we're living those habits, but the world around us, the air quality, having, plants in our homes or being in an environment where we have access to green spaces like sunlight, like those things weren't as much in the conversation. So yeah, I think kind of leading the way on some of those things is important. One more question down the path of focusing solely on like the content and the media aspect. Distribution, right? That has over the years changed so many different times. It's a constant kind of shift. How do you think about how you're distributing this content and reaching audiences now in a world where it's, at one point it was maybe just Google and SEO, and then it was primarily Facebook. And then of course, you have Instagram, and now it's so many different things. What does that look like from a distribution standpoint at this time?
We believe in omnichannel. We believe in putting our content everywhere. We have our own podcast. We've invested heavily in Google and search. We're on every social media platform. We have an email newsletter. Our articles are picked up on there are tons of platforms, whether it's Apple News or there's a lot out there.
Yeah, and it's a very diversified approach to distribution. And when we think of, particularly what we're doing within SEO, it's not a growth at all costs. There's easier ways to just provide top line growth, which would probably placate a lot of our partners within the advertising space to see that, those higher numbers. But we are really focused on building a health forward audience, people who care deeply about health, nutrition, and all that entails. And that is clearly more competitive than some of the easier ways to build through search. And the beauty of the referral platforms is that your content is constantly reaching outside of your ecosystem. So you're able to tap the people within your ecosystem through your owned operated channels, but then also reach new people through referral platforms and other distribution channels.
And I think our approach to content and also running our business has always been more of a mindful approach. And we have never embraced growth at all costs, whether that's growth at all costs in terms of content and scale for the sake of scale, or how we think about our products and our business, and spending way too much money on Meta, like a lot of brands are painfully learning about right now. That's just never been our approach. We, as a mission-driven company, believe in the power of profitability. It allows you to stay true to your mission. When you are unprofitable, it often forces you to make decisions that aren't necessarily right for the brand or for the mission, and potentially puts you in a compromising situation. And as a mission-driven business, profitability has always been core for us. I think we've been profitable for 15 quarters in a row. I lost count. So it's just something core, and we just don't buy into the growth at all costs for a mission-driven company. It's just not right.
And I guess down that path, we can kind of pivot to the diversified revenue and thinking about content and commerce. We mentioned a couple of different companies. Obviously, there's the Goops of the world who have an approach doing that. But as you said, Colleen, outside the scope of health and fitness and wellness, I agree. There are so many compelling concepts. Food 52, who recently, if people don't follow, they acquired Schoolhouse Electric and are doing a lot of their own products. You have someone, even in a way like Barstool Sports, who does it from like a gambling and content side, sports.
Very different mission.
Sure, it completely different. And then even another one, you mentioned Hodinkee doing it with like the watches, which is incredible to watch what they're doing from a very niche audience, but also building a big business. And the last example I wanted to throw out was Meat Eater, which is doing it for like the hunting space and launching their own products, acquiring product brands as well. How are you thinking about that? I even looking at the website, from the supplements to the courses to now health coaching, quite a few different kind of revenue business lines. Where do things stand? How is that evolving?
So I think our approach to products is somewhat unique in that, everything comes from a place of mission, and all the products we have. So like the supplements and personal care, none of them are white labeled products. We spent years bringing the supplements to life. It started from a place of mission where just quickly, I'm 47. My father died heart disease at 47. We've got 2 little girls. A couple of years ago, I wanted to get more sophisticated around testing beyond like cholesterol, blood pressure. And I have access to every great doctor. So I'm like, why aren't I doing this? And so did a whole bunch of labs, and it turned out everything's fine. I'm fine. But I had this one marker, homocysteine, which was way out of whack. For context, homocysteine is an indicator of potential blood clotting. It's like inflammation of the blood. So clotting in terms of pulmonary embolism, which Colleen also had during a flight about a decade ago. So I was familiar with that.
We're very familiar with that.
Very familiar. Do not want that. Pulmonary embolism, stroke, aneurysm, and you want your levels under 15. Mine was 63. And I remember my doctor, Frank Lippman, called me and said, I think it's a mistake. Take it again. Took it again. It wasn't a mistake. He messengered me over. And I didn't go to direct. I was very unlike me, because usually I go straight to Dr. Google, which is very unproductive most of the time. Yeah. I did not do that. He messengered me. I was like, what do I do, Frank? Surgery, medication, not opposed to these things. He was like, my diet's pretty good. He was like, you're not methylating properly. you have the MTHFR gene, which like half the population does. And the only thing you can do is supplement with a cocktail of B vitamins. Messengered them over. That I knew it was very serious. We live in New York. He could have sent them, get in a day, messengered them over. My homocysteine went from 63 to 23 over 30 days, and then eventually in this range between 12 and 15, which is it sits today, over 60 days. And so I then became obsessed with longevity and supplements and said, okay, I have this problem. A lot of people, other people have this problem. What other problems out there do people have? And is there we always believed in supplements, but we became really believers and started to focus on bigger problems that people have. And could we really create science-backed, efficacious products? And the answer was yes. And it was a 2-year process. So that led to our supplement line. And so, and everything we do from a product standpoint, whether it's our CPG or even our online education with our health coaching product, is it on mission? Can we do something really innovative that's best in class? And we'll do it. And that's been our approach, where I think other content to commerce properties have done a little bit of, there's some innovation. I think there's some white labeling. I think there's some marketplace. Those are all great. But for us, it started with innovation. Can we really innovate? We would never create a new product that was just similar to everything else. Can we really innovate and do something that works? And then is the opportunity size big enough? And that's been our approach to products. And it's taken a while. And now we're in this place, though, that's exciting, where we have on the CPG side about 15 SKUs. We'll be at 30 by the end of the year. And that's actually been a much longer process.
In the development of that, I think the first thing everybody wants to do is they want to do merch. They want to do like some type of clothing. They want to do a collaboration. They want to do, the low hanging fruit, I guess, like, a tote bag or water bottles or, some of the things that you would think of as like someone going to a yoga class. Are you to go down these different paths, like the CPG, skincare, or supplements? Is this surveys? Is this talking to the community? Or is this kind of like reverse engineering it from the traction you're getting on different articles, or maybe some combination of all the above?
It's a combination of art and science. And within supplements, it's always starting from, okay, where do we think we can create a product that's truly unique that people need? And then as a part of the art, it's looking at, okay, where's our content authority here? Is this something that people are coming to us for? We know that content is our primary driver of new customer acquisition. So is this a place that we currently win in, or that we think we can win in? And understanding what that opportunity is, because it will give us a good proxy for our success. And, there's things we do that, kind of follow that formula. And then there's things that are innovative and cool that we're just like, well, we know our community within Mindbodygreen will really respond to the innovation of it. So it is this art of balancing kind of what are those maybe bigger company metrics of market share, addressable market, combined with understanding like the softness and kind of nuances of our community.
Yeah.
And then down that path, I think one of the things is I'm kind of thinking of it through the lens of another operator who is going through these kind of conversations with themselves or their team in terms of launching something internally to a community. We hear so much about that, like build the community first or build the audience first. When it comes to then introducing these products or initiatives or what have you to them, is that just a matter of, hey, you run that like you would another advertiser coming to the site and putting those placements and integrating them into content? Or is there a more formal launch or even kind of like go to market more broadly?
Yeah, there is a robust ecosystem. And, we use the word community a lot, but I really think for us, it's more of an ecosystem. When I think of community, I think of maybe like Facebook and IG and kind of like this direct line, but there's just so many pillars through which we're reaching and touching people through our ecosystem. So what that means is, Jason's having in-depth podcast conversations. That's typically reaching a more health-forward customer who's farther along on this health and well-being journey, who really responds to super expert credentials who are sharing information that's at the forefront of science. And that is just a different person from a persona standpoint than the day in content that reaches some of that person, but also reaches someone who's on an earlier track of their wellness journey. So we think of, all of our social channels, all of our content channels, the podcast, and how do we, tailor the message to that person on their wellness journey.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. One thing I wanted to ask about too, in terms of the different business lines, and also something that I think was kind of in the works and then maybe went away during COVID, live events, whether that's kind of like the more physically active or more like educational. Where does that stand?
Great question. It was we just came back from Expo West, and if we had a nickel for every person who said, when are you going to do events again? Events would be back at 7-figure business it was overnight. Events was a big part of what we did. It was a
25% of our total revenue if you go back to 2019. So it was, we probably over-indexed it on that, which I think is a wonderful thing compared to other publishers and media companies, if you would use that moniker to describe us. Because we did have a group of rabid followers who wanted to travel across country to go to this. So we're personally really eager to bring them back. We see the demand at the consumer level. The reality from a business standpoint is that when we run events, we need them to be profitable because it's a great and easy way to spend a lot of cash otherwise. And a lot of our advertisers help underwrite these events, and they still have a little bit of cold feet. So I think we will have a bigger presence when they are ready to roll.
We would love to do them. We're ready for the market to tell us when the right time is, but we're ready. We love events. Our events were very special. Our last event was this event called Revitalize, which was our annual event. We started in 2014. It was an invite-only event. People would have to apply. We'd buy out a resort. It was like the who's who of health and well-being. So like our last event, John Mackey, the founder and CEO of Whole Foods, opened, and then Deepak Chopra closed, and everything in between was every great MD you could find, and it was amazing. So we'd love to do them again, but the market will tell us when.
Yeah, we're certain. I feel like it's moving in that direction. So it's only a matter of time at this point. I guess shifting gears as we get towards the end of the conversation, I also wanted to ask, and this circling back to that point around, hey, we want to kind of we want to lead the way with coverage of certain topics or aspects of wellness. Is there anything that is kind of bubbling up now that you're looking at or have identified as being more a part of the conversation, or that people should be aware of in terms of either trends or opportunities, or however you think about that?
I think there are a couple things. There's like the micro and the macro. I'll touch on the micro. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say in the macro. On the micro, obviously, as you see my hand, I think the wearables, I'm wearing an Aura and a Whoop. Tracking is very interesting and moving very quickly. And I think it has legs, and I still think there are going to be bigger players coming in. You've written extensively on this subject. I'm a data junkie, and I think the next phase is going to be more around actionable insights. What do I do with all this? Okay, my HRV dropped, and all right, I could drink more water. Like we kind of maybe lay off the booze, drink more water, breath work. But like really taking it to the next step. I think it's a bigger conversation. I think everyone loves the idea of personalization, but I think personalization has a long way to go. It's a little bit more about like customization. Personalization you can do if you have unlimited financial resources. Yeah. I think Peter Thiel is probably doing it right now. But I think for most people, we're not quite there yet. I think that is very interesting. Breath work is obviously something that has tremendous legs. There's a lot of people having success in that space. We take 25, north of 25,000, 27 breaths a day. Don't really think about it. We love the simplicity of it. I think James Nestor put it on the map. Just breathe through your nose, keep your mouth shut. It's pretty simple. It's going to get you like 90% there, 80% there, which I think like 80-20 is where you're going to go on the macro. But
maybe I'll surprise you then. At the macro level, we talked and started this conversation around mental health, and over the past 2 years, we're all carrying some sort of scar tissue from the traumas that we've endured, whether it's a big T trauma or little T trauma, but all of the collective impact of these micro traumas. I think we are still figuring out what are the tools that we need to help us survive and thrive in this new normal. And I'm thankful that the conversation's been normalized everywhere from, places like TikTok to whenever we write about trauma, fortunately or unfortunately, the piece does extraordinarily well. I also think the conversation around longevity has evolved. It used to be something that I was a Silicon Valley biohacker. I'm trying to live to be 150. And now I think we're putting a little bit more of a democratic spin on it of, hey, when I'm 90, I want to be able to pick up my grandkids, go on a walk and really thrive and live a complete and fulfilling life. And, the goals of well-being and longevity to me are so overlapped and so similar in that we want these years to really thrive and to live complete and fulfilling lives, however you define that for yourself.
I think the why is very important. The why behind why health and wellness is important is an important question that I think more people are starting to ask themselves. Why do I want to live longer? Like maybe I want to be around to be with my grandchildren and pick them up. Why do I want to be fitter? Why? And I think it allows you, it's coming back to joy, happiness. And I think those are critical questions coming out of we're in the middle of a mental health epidemic.
Yeah, I think all that very well said. And a lot of the things that we're thinking about as well and trying to write about. And I think to your point around why that in connecting the dots, I think just like that overall integration of so many of these things, as you mentioned, one word, not three, even in terms of Mindbodygreen. But if you look at all these other trends from like mental health to longevity to biomarkers to data to personalization, it's like, okay, great. So many of these things still live in these silos. And I don't know how to integrate them. And like, I'm thinking about it and trying on a daily basis. And then even one step beyond that is like, okay, now from like a meaning standpoint, what does this mean going forward? So yeah, we're thinking about a lot of the same things. It'll be exciting and interesting to see how it plays out. And one last question and wrapping up before we get you out of here. What should we be on the lookout for, or anything you're particularly excited about as it relates to Mindbodygreen and everything you have going on?
Well, one, from an innovation standpoint, as I mentioned, we're about 15 SKUs. We'll double that number by the end of the year, which is really exciting. And in terms of innovation, we think these products are efficacious, they're scientifically driven, they work, they're exciting. So that's something. And then our health coaching certification is brand spanking new. And that is a program we've worked on for over a year. There's a board certification. We are big believers in empowering people to be the change they want to see in the world. And, I think the silver lining of COVID, telemedicine is widely accepted. People are taking health and wellness more seriously. More people are aligning with our point of view, the Mindbodygreen point of view. And with that said, a lot of doctors don't have the ability to take on new patients, to spend more than 15 minutes. And health coaching is here to stay. New York Times did a big piece on this. It is a huge opportunity. And so we've spent the past year creating this board certified program, which we're just starting like now. And so we're just so excited to bring this offering out to empower people to make a career change and actually become a coach and build clients and help spread the gospel of health and wellness and make real behavioral change for people to empower their families and communities. And that's just something we're so thrilled to get out there. So far, so good. It's like happening right now. I'm doing a lot of refreshes, but I think and then content. I mentioned the scale we have, the 10 million in the US and the 16 million globally. We're just really excited about the opportunity to create more content that's value add, that has a Mindbodygreen point of view, that can help reach people wherever they are in the wellness journey.
And you brought up the word integration that resonates with us so much personally and for the Mindbodygreen brand of how do we take all of these well-being tools and help people integrate them into their lives so it's not something extra, something else that I have to do, but becomes a sustainable, accountable piece of their lives.
And whether it's the health coaching, some of the products, the content, the best on-ramp, you just point them to the website. Where should people check it out?
Yeah, go to mindbodygreen.com, mindbodygreen and every social channel you can find, and mindbodygreen podcast. But we're everywhere you are.
You got to do it. That's what we're trying as well. But I appreciate you both making time to chat today. Super excited to share the conversation, and we'll definitely be following along as the products continue to grow, the health coaching continues to grow. So thanks again for making time.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Take care
We're
of you.
huge fans.